Morning. Oh, there, that's loud. Cool. Welcome to April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Downtown Design Review Committee. My name is Justin Brandon, and I am the Vice Chair of the committee. I will be the acting chair for today's meeting. The following guidelines are in place for meetings in the council chamber at City Hall. Only the south entrance to City Hall will be open for access to the building. For exiting the building, all accesses will be or can be used. Air purifying machines have been installed in the chamber, and hand sanitizer machines and disposable face masks will be available. When called upon, applicants and speakers will come to the front podium to speak. Only one person at a time should come to the podium. Speak into the microphone, please, and identify yourself when you begin speaking. Address your comments to the committee and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Citizens may address the committee on agenda items by responding to the chair's call for speakers during discussion on each item and signing the speaker's log on the podium. All comments must be relevant to the item. The chair or presiding officer may, in his or her discretion, prohibit a person from addressing the committee and/or remove that person from the council chambers if that person commits any disorderly or disruptive behavior. Please see the agenda for more information about these requirements. If you've parked in the Sheridan Walker parking garage north of John Rex Elementary School, staff can provide a parking validation ticket for you. The agenda and documents are located at https://okc.primegov.com/public/portal. You would then select the Downtown Design Review Committee meeting, then click on an agenda item, and the relevant documents will come up below the item. Desiree, will you please call roll?
Committee Member Jones. Committee Member Brannon.
Present.
Committee Member Blatt.
Here.
Committee Member Copeland.
Here.
Committee Member Serrar. Committee Member Trulio.
Present.
Okay, perfect. On the agenda is the item 2, approval of the February 17, 2022 minutes. If there are any comments or discussion, or if not, we'll entertain a motion. Motion approved by Blatt.
Yes.
I'll second.
Second. Trujillo. There it is. There it is.
Now it's correct.
If not, we can do a voice vote. Oh, there it is. Perfect. Okay. Motion passes. Now if it exits my screen. Perfect. Item 3 on the agenda, cases withdrawn. There are none. Item 4 on the agenda, continuance requests. There are none. Item 5, consent docket. There are none. Item 6, case for individual consideration. So we have DTCA-22-00005 at 1013 Northwest 13th Street. Lori, you want to introduce the item?
Hi. Give me just 1 second. So, there we go. And Katie, were you going to get to the attachments? If you could go ahead and do that. And it would be the attachment for today's meeting. So this item was on your agenda in February, and you continued it and had some specific direction to the applicant. And so I'm going to read the direction and some of it was resolved, and some of it was resolved, but I discussed in the staff report. So the first one was to consider and review the opportunities with their design team to redesign the location of the building so that it is closer to the Classen Boulevard right-of-way. And I'm going to discuss that in a minute. The second one was to redesign the building to include a more prominent entrance feature or comparable level of architectural detail on the south and west facades. And the south is 13th Street and the west is Classen. And I'm going to discuss that one as well. Third, to add windows or a comparable item to the south and west facades. More discussion on that. Fourth, to work with staff to address the comment on landscape and plantings in a minimum 2-foot wide irrigated landscape area between the parking lot and 13th Street right-of-way. The landscape plan was revised to include this. Number 5 was to work with the adjacent property owners and staff to find a compromised location for the dumpster enclosure. And the dumpster enclosure was relocated to the southeast corner of the lot as discussed at the February meeting, so it's as far away from the back of the residential lots as possible. And number 6 was to address the lighting in a manner that can provide safety for the applicant but shield the adjacent property owners from light spilling over onto their property. The lights were revised to have 1 head per pole, previously there were 2, and revised site lighting, a photometric design sheet provided showing reduced light levels at the north property line adjacent to the parking lot. So, give me a second, and, because I was going to pull up that. Do I need to click Prime Gov, or were you going to share your screen?
So what do you want to show? What is it you want to see?
The revised
Okay,
attachment.
okay, I can show that. Let's see. Okay.
Yes, and we can just land it right there. So as you might recall, the site plan that you considered in February had the southwest corner of the building 99 feet to the east of the corner, and we have the maximum 10 foot. And as you can see on the site plan, they have significantly moved the building toward Classen. The lot has an angle. The western property line follows Classen, so it's at an angle. And it's now just a little over 15 feet down there at that corner as compared to 99 feet the last time you saw it. They've also, they referenced in February they would have to add some retaining walls, and they did add retaining walls. At the highest point there at the corner, it'll be 6 feet tall, and then it reduces down to 2 feet as it goes both north and east. And so the retaining walls were not shown in the original site plan, so they've added them there as well as along the north and along the east property line because of change of grades. So the project will meet the special building setback, which is from the center line of Classen. They will still need variance from the downtown maximum setback, the Build 2 line, and they are on the agenda for this afternoon's Board of Adjustment meeting for that matter. Recognizing the difficulty in designing and locating a building to meet the maximum 10-foot setback from both Classen and 13th Street when Classen is at an angle, staff supports the new location. Proposed revision to the building and location will provide the appearance of a site more closely in compliance with the Build 2 line. And as we discussed in February, staff is very concerned about this site because it's the entrance. As you're headed south on Classen, it's the entrance into the downtown design district. And we feel that this revised project, which is having a building setback, the south corner is 15 feet, and the northwest corner is going to be 35 feet, and so significantly better than what we saw previously. And so staff is very pleased with the resubmittal that they provided. The second thing to discuss is the street-facing facades with minimal glass and windows. So as, and we can, let's see, I was looking. So we're talking about the south facade and the west facade. So they added windows, they added taller windows, Originally, what you saw on one facade, it was 7% glass, and the guideline is 50%, and the other was 9%. So they increased from 7 to 22%, so they tripled it, and from 9 to 16%, so they almost doubled it. And so they did make an effort, and as they discussed in February, there's a storm shelter in the building, and obviously you can't have windows into that, and then just different design issues and concerns that impact the amount of glass. So they literally increased the amount of glass by 50% over what we saw in February. And staff feels this will really enhance the appearance of the building, and we support the proposed facades. The next thing is the building is oriented to the parking lot, and as discussed at your meeting in February, for ease of dropping off and picking up children, they have the main entrance facing the east. So what they've done is they kind of added to the center portion of the building. It's real similar to what they did on the east. It looks like it sticks out. It kind of looks like it's an entrance, and they do have doors, but those are doors into individual classrooms and things like that. So they did enhance the appearance of both those facades, especially the Classen Boulevard, because they didn't have anything like that previously. And the parapet kind of steps up, so that helps give more importance to the center of that. And because of these revisions, staff supports the proposed street facades. And at this time, staff is recommending approval with all of the revisions that they've made. Mr. Finnemore's here, the representative from Primrose. If you have questions, and I haven't turned around to see, as far as citizens, I had not heard from anybody, but we did send out notices again to the property owners within 150 feet.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Anyone from the gallery like to speak on this item?
I actually wouldn't mind hearing from the owner. Enough was discussed last time, and I think a conversation should be had. So, anything that you want to speak to on the efforts that you went through since the last submission?
No, the only thing I was to mention, because you spoke
Excuse
was
me, can you identify
I'm sorry,
yourself?
I gotta introduce
Thank you.
myself. I'm John Finnemore, Development Project Manager with Primrose Schools. I just wanted to mention that you accurately predicted, Mr. Blatt, that we would be building a retaining wall around the north and the east sides, which effectively, I don't believe there's really any water from our site that goes to the neighbors currently, but now there certainly won't be because we're lower than them. And then the other benefit of that occurring is it helped us reduce the height of the L-shaped wall down at the intersection. I anticipated that being significantly taller. Now the maximum height is 6 feet at the elbow of the wall. So it's, there'll be a wall there, but it won't be overwhelming. And really for us, it's a nice secure feature because, as Laura mentioned, this elevation that's up right now, those are classroom doors. That'll be up above grade, so people won't try to get in those doors thinking that's the entrance. They'll go over to the east side because everything will be fenced and above on a retaining wall. So I think all in all, it worked out well. The other thing that we were able to do by moving it to the corner is previously the building was turned 90 degrees so that the longer dimension was along Class and shorter on along 13th. And the storm shelter was at the northwest corner of the building. Now by turning it, it's at the northeast corner, which allowed us to put more windows on the west and the south side. So I think all in all, it really worked out better laying it out, and we've got some retaining wall to build is really kind of the cost impact of that. But I think, as Mr. Blatt mentioned, the site's probably going to come fairly close to balancing now that we're going to lower the parking lot to raise the intersection. So I think we've accomplished as best we could, staff concerns, commission concerns, and neighbors' concerns.
The reason why I wanted the opportunity to at least have a couple of conversations is this is an example of exactly what we hope to achieve through this process. I think that the solution accomplished what you were looking to do as an owner, and also it really is a better solution for the site. And yes, at the very corner it's 6 feet, but it tapers off to 2 feet. So as you approach it from either direction, it's going to be nominal. The retaining walls that are up on the northeast portion are modest, but they do make sure that the neighbors feel like that the drainage is such that it's not going to be coming to the north. I think that you did an excellent job listening to what we discussed, and I just appreciate the fact that you made our life a lot easier as we reviewed it.
No, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate that everybody involved, staff, board, neighbors, provided constructive comments that we could address. You know, when I go to meetings where they just say, I don't like it, it's ugly or whatever, what do I do? You know, when you tell me move trash enclosures, move the building, we can work towards that. So it was a great joint effort, and I appreciate everybody's help.
Any other staff comments? Or, yeah, I'd like to echo Tony's sentiments as well. We really appreciate you working with staff, neighbors to the north, just addressing all those concerns. I really appreciate it.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Any other thoughts, concerns? Entertain a motion.
I will make a motion that we approve, and I'm going to get this correct. I'm going to make a motion that we approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinances as referenced in sections C and D of the staff report.
And I'll second.
Black Copeland. Well, do we need to make a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment?
Oh, thank you so much. Good job. Yes. And your second motion after that one that has just gotten approved would be to make a motion to the Board of Adjustment to, I'm looking how that wording, I don't, to approve the request for
The setback.
the build to line, to not conform with the build to line.
Okay. So that motion passes. And then next we'll make a motion to provide a recommendation to the Board of Adjustments for a variance from the regulation requiring the first 2 floors of new construction to be within 10 feet of the street right-of-way.
Thank you. That's exactly what I said. Thank you, Susan.
So I'm going to make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
keeping me. Sorry, I missed that. Okay.
Okay, next for individual consideration is DTCA-22-00020 at 200 North Chartel Avenue.
So first, let me just stress that this is only for part of the mechanical room. Has nothing to do with the old jail at all. We're not touching that at this time. So there was a fire that significantly damaged, and let me, if I can see this. So it's outlined in yellow there. I want to thank Lo Runkle for going out on site with me to get these pictures taken. So there was a fire that significantly damaged the mechanical room, which is on the back. It's a 1-story on the back of the jail. And so we kind of had to go through the old police station, which is currently being demolished, and they had to stop the demolition because of this, and they can't resume the demolition of the old police station until they get this taken care of because of where it's located. And so they're proposing to demolish a portion of this, and then put rubble down in the, so it's about here. So from here, that direction, they need to demolish it. And so it's kind of hard to even see it unless you get out there in the middle of this demolition site. And let me go back this way. So they're needing to demolish this because of everything that's associated with the jail. And we said we really need to go to the committee. Everyone needs to understand what they're asking for. It is so severely damaged. And they provided photos which were in the attachment. And if you would like for me to get there, I can ask Katie to share her screen again. But they provided photos that they took looking down. I mean, the roof is collapsed. It is a very dangerous situation, and it's kind of beyond even repairable when you look at it. They also provided a report from an engineering firm that was also included with their application. So city staff is here. If you have any questions for them, staff is recommending approval of this. Unfortunately, because I don't see any other option at this point.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Anyone in the gallery here to speak on that? Okay. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, we'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in sections C and D of the staff report.
No, I'll second.
Black Copeland. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case for individual consideration, DTCA-22-00021 at 20 East Park Avenue, or Park Boulevard.
It's Park Place.
Park Place, excuse me.
Sorry, it's PL. We don't usually see that very much, so. So let me get out of this one and get into, where is it? This one. So this is over toward the eastern extent of the Downtown Design District. This is adjacent to one of the crossings that was closed on the railroad crossing up there where they closed Park Place in 11th and 12th. And the OG&E substation used to be located down here on 10th, and it is now located north of the site, and you'll see some pictures of that. So it's kind of hard to get a feel for the site, which is why I included this Google Earth photo. And so the buildings that we're talking about are these two buildings, and they're kind of connected with a wall. And then there's an apartment building next to it that's not part of this, which has a detached building in the back. I think it's more apartments, which is not part of this. And so the day I went out, I did take some pictures through the fence because the site is fenced in. They also included some pictures in their application. And it's kind of a cool brick old building. It was listed in phase 2 of the intensive level survey as being contributing to a potential industrial district along the railroad track, but there has been no movement on the part of the city or the part of any individual to actually establish that district. That survey was acknowledging the historical significance of some of the buildings. We had one previously on 7th, you might or might not recall. It was a very small building, trying to think. Tony was probably the only one that was on at the time. And that one had been damaged by the bombing and was just a one-story building, and they needed to tear it down because structurally it was not sound anymore. Well, these buildings were originally constructed and used for the substation, but I think they were decommissioned quite some time ago. And so at this time, they're asking that they be torn down. And so it's a dead-end street now since the railroad crossing has been removed. And you have the apartment building next to it. And across the street, as I said, is the new OG&E substation. That property that substation is on is not in the downtown design district. That was some property that ended up getting rezoned SPUD that I think they got from the state, and it was not put into the district. So I only say that because we have a case on your agenda later that I'm very excited that it's on because it's coming into downtown. So these are just some views from the surrounding area, and then I'll just go back to those buildings. So they provided, let me flip past, the guidelines for demo, as you know, are extremely long, and so when we put them in the staff report, it takes up a lot. So although it showed that this was, as I said, contributing to a potential district, there's been no movement to establish that district at all. In 2017, OG&E commissioned a structural assessment, which was included. It is not possible to state that the existing facility will remain sound for a certain time frame. It had not been maintained over time. There are a lot of cracks in the brick. It has been sitting there unused for a while. So you can consider any of the demolition criteria, any of the information that they submitted. The buildings are no longer needed for their originally intended purpose, and they're difficult to adapt to another use, especially considering their condition. So for these reasons and issues detailed in the staff report, staff is supporting of the request to demolish the two structures. And there are representatives here representing OG&E if you have any questions for them.
Any questions for staff?
Is there any indication of what might go on the site after it's demolished?
The property is going to be transferred to an adjacent property owner that was involved in some other land dealings in that area, which is they own Neighbor's Coffee. They own the apartment building next door. They own where the motorcycle place is to the south. They own most of this area, but nothing has been turned in to staff. There has been no application or any contact with staff about what they plan on doing over there.
I'm supportive of the demolition, but hasn't there been a requirement in the past that we have some kind of indication of?
That is one of the demolition criteria that they can provide, which you're going to be seeing with your next one. That it's a guideline, it's not a requirement, and we can ask. And so sometimes people turn in structural information for the justification. I don't think at this time that there are any plans for this property. So that would make it kind of difficult to turn something in. But you have asked for it in the past, and you did on the one on 7th Street, if you recall.
I would like to just hear maybe an overview of what the thought is of the property from ownership, and specifically that so that it's recorded, since we've asked for it in the past, and I do think that it's important that we be consistent in how we approach this. Again, I understand the unique nature of the building and the fact that it would be extremely difficult to rehabilitate into another function. I am supportive of this. I think that we should just be consistent. So if there could be any thoughts on, what's the status of the site going to be once demolition is complete?
If you could please just identify yourself. Thank you so
My
much.
name's Ford Fentress. I'm a senior coordinator for OG&E Land Management. And I was involved with a three-party agreement, as you all may or may not know, but with Okura, the alliance helped structure between neighbors, OG&E, and Okura, and ODOT was involved in first. So it was a real complicated puzzle. I hate to go into that. I don't want to bore you with that. But the overall, what your question was, Mr. Platt, was what's this going to be in the future? So in that redevelopment agreement, which is a three-party agreement, all these questions will be submitted through a review committee with the city on any kind of redevelopment, just like you all are reviewing now, prior to any approval of any redevelopment. So that's part of the agreement in the deed and so forth when we convey this property. This is an important part of it, is to get this site remediated into such a fashion that we can continue to move on to the redevelopment phase, and that's to convey the property. And then having a full ownership of that block, basically, the redeveloper will come up with some grandiose plan that you all be happy with to be a gateway to what we call the medical corridor to St. Anthony's, I think was the original intent of this with Okura and so forth. So I've worked extensively with their legal department and so forth, and the landowners, and it's been a complicated process, but like all these that we do with the city, the end game turns out to be real successful. So anyway.
So after demolition, it'll be graded, neatly graded to drain, no ponding. There'll be some kind of slab sod or something put down, and it'll be maintained so that it's not an eyesore. Just thinking trying to look at how do you get past the point of somebody saying, how did we get here?
Yeah.
And well, nobody ever said. So
as far as
all
this
debris is removed, everything is made neat. The site is going to basically just be cleaned to a nice urban lot, undeveloped.
Yeah, just a second. I'm the contractor's responsible. There's a scope of work they have. I'd hate to deal, but do you want to speak to that on the site that they have there? I think your intent is we're just going to take it down to grade. So.
And I appreciate you indulging me. I just want to make sure that we at least dot the few I's and cross the few T's that we're discussing.
My name is Rusty Lynch. I work for Intercon Services. We're overseeing the project. And as far as the finished product, it will be graded and then gravelled, the whole area.
Okay, and we'll stop right there. Gravel isn't allowed as a surface covering, is not allowed as a surface covering. So we'll
Is
have,
the reason why I was curious.
will have
what's the
to-
final.
talk about that.
Okay. I mean, if sod needs to come in, we'll just put sod down.
Because I guess then it would end up getting used for a parking lot, and gravel parking is not currently allowed, and you need a variance for that. So we will have to discuss that one.
But that is something that could be coordinated with staff as a condition of our motion.
Yes, coordinating on surface covering or.
That's the only question that I have. Thank you.
Questions, comments?
I think one other thing that would be important to know is if the fence is staying around the perimeter too.
It is coming down,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And I assumed it was coming down, which is, I have all on-site improvements would cover that. So.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Comments? Okay, entertain a motion.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report, with the condition that the owner works with staff to address whatever the final ground covering is going to be for the property.
I'll second.
Was that Rosie
Black
or
Trevino.
Kayla? Rosie, okay, thank you. I have a hard time hearing from over here, so.
Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is DTCA-22-00029 at 1111 Classen Drive.
Okay, let me get out of this one. 120. Okay, I got it over here. I lost it, there it is. So this is what most people know of as the old IMSA site in Midtown. IMSA built the new facility and they closed all their other locations and they all got moved. So some of them, like the one on South Walker, is being offered up again. This one, the proposal is to tear down the building. When I suggested that the owner could provide information, and because I knew they were working on something, we've had meetings, he submitted like the entire set of drawings, which is what you saw in the packet. I just want to remind everybody, we're only talking about the demolition of the existing building. And the architect is here, and we have kind of a pared down version of the proposal to show you that doesn't have all the detailed drawings with the dimensions, that just kind of, which right now you don't need to get into that much of a detail. So it's a triangular block, which makes it very interesting to try to design a new project for, especially when we have the minimum heights and the maximum setbacks. And so one of the things you saw staff say was, you know, we're excited because the new project will meet the minimum height and the maximum setback. The current building does not. According to the county, the building was constructed in 1966. Previously, on the 52 Sanborn maps, it showed 2 restaurants and 2 filling stations. And so those apparently were torn down when they built this building in the next decade. So in this area, as you can see, St. Anthony's in the background. Yes, it's across the street from St. Anthony's. The streetcar goes up the side of it, and you have Plaza Courts across the street. And so you have a lot. You have retail, you have restaurants, you have all of that going on. As I said, you have St. Anthony's. And then you have to, since Classen goes at an angle, it always throws me for a loop, but I'm going to call this northeast. You have the new Boulevard building that you have seen more than once because we had to do some issues with signage on it. And then across the street, you can catch a glimpse of the townhouse development that has gone up on the Villa Teresa site. So we've got new construction going on, a lot of stuff going on in this part of Midtown. So let me get back to the building. So the building is not listed in the National Register of Historic Places, and in Phase 2 of the intensive level survey, contrary to the last one we talked about that was in that survey, this was not considered eligible. At the time, it said due to age or integrity, but you know, staff does not feel this is a significant building to be concerned about. And they did submit, as I said, what they're working on. So you kind of have a glimpse into the proposal. And I was going to let me get to it. But anyway, the committee can consider any of the stuff we've talked about, and staff is recommending approval of this one. And I want to get to this. And if you have questions for me now, that's fine. Normally, I say they're here for questions, but I kind of think if he can just like go through these, I think it would be helpful to you. Because the one thing I really like is that it's giving, it's basically trying to match its neighbor.
Absolutely.
Which I think is really cool.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
See, there's a way I can make it bigger by going there, but I couldn't see it. There we go.
I need to introduce myself, right?
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Asa Highsmith, Common Works Architects, 435 Northwest 23rd, Suite 214. Yeah, we're just here for a demo permit. We weren't expecting, honestly, to be presenting the building yet. We're still in the middle of design. We have prepared, some exhibits just to give you guys a preview. And there are a couple kind of like big points I would like to make with this presentation. But so generally, kind of a simple graphic trying to give context and scope of the project. This is the Plaza Court building. McNally's is down here. We're proposing a 4-story mixed-use project, active ground floor retail all the way, all sides of the building, and then the top 3 stories are proposed as apartments. Got a total of 60 apartments. You can see from the site plan that we're really utilizing one frontage of the site. Part of the plan here, and this is one of the main points I'd like to make here. We looked at a lot of different options for redevelopment. We've had a lot of questions about why we haven't considered structured parking for the site. The main reason for that is because it is a triangle. As a Flatiron site, trying to develop structured parking in any way is incredibly difficult. The price per parking spot becomes astronomical compared to what you would normally see for structured parking. It doesn't make sense, it doesn't pencil. So we felt in discussions with our client that it actually made more sense rather than almost like capture for the future that portion of the site as structured parking. We kind of see it as, we've left a portion of this open for further redevelopment down the line. We think our client agrees on that. We're pushing, I think, a lot of the typical metrics for Oklahoma City with this project. We're under parking this quite a bit compared to most of our neighbors, even in Midtown. We're below 1 parking spot per bed. We believe that's not only what a lot of the guidelines push this area towards, but we think it's the intent of the comp plan. We are right next to a streetcar stop. We think that it also helps kind of what we're trying to do here and what we think the city's trying to do in this area. And if all of that proves successful as part of our development plan, I think 10, 15 years down the road, you guys might see us for this other portion of the site. This is a first floor and site plan, of course, and so you can kind of get an idea of the makeup of the ground floor. We're still, a lot of this is still settling in. As I said, this is early on, so this is really a preliminary presentation, but in this scheme, we had been looking at 2 potential 5,000 square foot restaurants that would be on each end. We like putting a strong face towards the roundabout and of course towards this intersection up here. And then filling in between with a lot of kind of smaller scale retail, the type of retail that are just leasable commercial that we've seen in the area doing well. These are smaller spaces, 1,000 square feet, things that kind of cater more towards the young, vibrant companies that seem to be filling up the area. It's a brick building, it's red brick. We think just based on a lot of our neighbors, it's pretty timeless approach. The formal aspects of the project and any of the detailing we'd be happy to talk about, of course, at any level of detail you'd prefer. Pretty simple section telling the story of how these are set up. So typical upper floor plan currently. As I said, we've got 60 units, so divided by 3 stories. That's our typical. All 3 of these stacked. They're exactly the same as you go up. A typical bedroom plan. These are also we're leaning heavily towards studios and 1-beds. That's also based on the success of the local market. We feel like that's what people down here want. There's not a ton of families moving into the area. These are mostly young professionals that just want to be down near the energy and this type of approach to development works good both for the market and for, developers. So. Studio plan. And these last two just give a quick, overview. As I said, I think this, you can tell that we've put significant energy into this. Something in this vein is what we are doing. This is the direction that things are going. I think, articulation and design are yet to fully settle. So I'm going to be excited to come back here and present to you guys, that final design here down the road. We're moving on it with a plan to hopefully break ground, if not late this year, then early next year. So that's about our time. It's kind of generically our timeline, and hoping to come back and make you guys happy then. Happy to answer any questions about the design or what's proposed. But again, I think today we're really just looking for approval to demolish the existing IMSA building so we can continue on our way.
And just to reiterate, when they submit for the new building, due to the size, I mean, your criteria is 20,000 square feet, it will have to come back to you. In addition, even if the building wasn't that large, the parking lot on a corner, there's a guideline on that, and so that would have to come back to you guys. But just so you know, all you're doing today is on the demolition, demolishing the building and all site improvements.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
I don't want to lengthen this because it is a demo, but the fact that we have this kind of information is what we hope to see whenever demolition requests come before us. So I appreciate you sharing with us. I look forward to seeing it whenever it becomes a building submission, but it makes it easy for us to look at what's there and what the proposal is, so thank you very much.
Okay, entertain a motion?
I'll move to approve the application on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, that motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. There we go. Item 7 on the agenda, other business. We have PC-10810 at 1010 and 1324 North Oklahoma Avenue and 616 North Walnut Avenue.
Hello. This is the one I was referring to you earlier, and I'm very excited to see it. And more so because we had some activity over in that area that I was hoping would come into the Downtown Design District a few years ago, and it didn't. So I have a lot of pictures that you saw in the handout because it's 3 separate sites, which gets a little overwhelming. So I'm probably just going to land it right here so you can see all 3 sites. Sorry. So the Downtown Design Review Committee can make a recommendation, which is what we're doing today, on a rezoning. We'll be going to the Planning Commission next. And so what the recommendation is that parcel, so we have 3 separate parcels, and we have parcel 1 and parcel 2 is proposing to be rezoned DBD, and then it would be in the Downtown Design District, and parcel 3 is proposed to be zoned DTD1, because that's what's adjacent to it, and it would also be in the Downtown Design District. So currently, all these properties just look like grass and they're fenced off, left over from 235 project. We had to go back and look at what they had been zoned prior to that, which is where the zoning came from. Because there's residential zoning R4, there's office zoning O1, and then there's commercial zoning C3. And so we actually had to pull out the hand-colored maps that I remember from my days here in the 80s to see what they had been zoned when the neighborhoods were still there, before they did 235. So staff really had no issues. We had no issues at all. We're just excited that they want to come in, they want to take advantage of being in the design district and the uses and all of the design requirements that that offers. And we do have representatives from Okura is here that might or might not want to talk, that are here to answer questions if they don't want to come up. We just, there isn't anything else I can really say other than I'm very excited that they're doing this.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Any questions for staff?
Were these designated as excess right-of-way? Was this designated as excess right-of-way from whenever the highway was built?
That is my understanding, that that's
Applicant
what it
wanna
is,
speak on
and
that?
so here we go. Oh, I don't have my glasses on. I didn't realize that that was Cassie in the back, so if you could just sign in and identify yourself.
Cassie
thanks.
Poor, 105 Hudson, Suite 101. Yes, this was excess right-of-way that Urban Renewal has been negotiating with ODOT for a long time to try to hopefully facilitate development on. We finally acquired the property, so it is in Okura's ownership, and then worked with city staff to say, okay, what is this currently zoned? What makes sense for it to be rezoned in? Obviously, we will issue RFPs. We actually already have one out right now for parcel 2, and we have considered that it will be in this DBD zoning. We've identified that that's what it should be rezoned as. So basically, we're trying to encourage development on these parcels and kind of work within the framework of the DDRC. So that's our goal.
Do we have any kind of regulations on excess right-of-way, other parcels up and down? Is there anything that's in our ordinances or? I think this is fantastic. I'd like to know, are there other properties that are going to potentially be brought in a similar fashion?
I'm sure there's others out there. You all had a house that was in Deep Deuce, that was on 3rd Street, if you might recall, that had to come to you because the door was on the side. That was a piece of, believe it or not, DOT property that they acquired that runs through Deep Deuce where they put a storm sewer structure underneath. And so they've got different kinds of excess property that periodically kind of funnel in, or somebody starts asking them for it. I think that, the biggest one would be the one on the south. And I think that one probably would have more issues to resolve because of access, because of where it is and what the roads do around it. But that could all be worked out. Because that's the one that's, you could end up almost with a square building versus a rectangular building because it's more square in shape and the others are long and narrow. But obviously property that is ripe for redevelopment.
Thank you. Any other questions? So entertaining a recommendation, or making a motion?
Right, so what we're recommending is that you're entertaining a motion to provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission for request to rezone, and then it's all spelled out. And you can just read it straight from there.
Okay, let me pull that back up.
I'll make a motion to provide a recommendation of approval to the Planning Commission for the request to rezone from R4 to C3 and C3 to DBD, Downtown Business District, and from R4 to O1, R4 and O1 to DTD1, Downtown Transitional District Limited, on the basis that the project complies with the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District Zoning Ordinance as referenced in section C and D of the staff report.
I'll second.
So Blatt, Trujillo. Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
So hopefully soon, we're going to start seeing CA applications coming in on projects.
That's awesome.
Next on the agenda is item 8, communications. There are 22 items under the administrative approval report. You've been busy there.
That's what happens when we go 2 months between meetings.
No.
The only thing I will point out is there's 3 that they're half a page apiece, which are part of the Villa Teresa project. So they're continuing forward. I'm very excited about that project. So those are the big ones on there, just because of all the little bitty things they're doing, but it was below your threshold, and so that added to the 22 that you have on here.
Okay. Any comments from committee members before closing?
And the last thing is, we do have a meeting next month. You have some new projects that have come in. And so please check your calendars. I'll be sending out an early quorum call. As you know, we still just have 6 members, and it makes it can be very trying when we have one who's out of the country, someone who got tied up in a meeting that he could not get out of, and I needed every single one of you to be able to hold this meeting, and I do appreciate your attendance, so.
Okay.
And welcome back, Kayla.
Okay, our next regular committee meeting is Thursday, May 19th, 2022. New applications were to be submitted to staff by 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th, 2022. Revisions and information on continued projects are to be submitted by April 26, 2022. Anything else? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I turn my mic off.